They were the ultimate warriors, forging an empire through iron discipline and unmatched brutality. But even the mightiest can crumble. This is the story of how the most feared society in history rose to dominate and then tragically fell.
When we think of Sparta, pop culture paints a picture of invincible super soldiers, shirtless warriors shouting in the rain. But the historical reality of the Lacedaemonians is far more complex and often far more brutal than the movies suggest.
Located in the fertile Eurotas Valley of the southern Peloponnese, Sparta wasn't just a city, it was a cluster of villages that operated as a military camp. Unlike Athens, it had no great walls, for its men were its walls.
The foundation of Spartan power wasn't just military drill, it was slavery on a massive scale. They conquered their neighbors, the Messenians, turning them into helots, state-owned serfs who worked the land so Spartans could train for war.
Fear of a Helot uprising dictated every aspect of Spartan life. The Spartans were outnumbered roughly 7-1. To maintain control, they created a society entirely dedicated to military discipline and physical perfection.
This discipline began at age 7. A Spartan boy was taken from his mother and placed into the agoge, a brutal, state-sponsored education system designed to strip away individuality and forge a soldier.
Life in the agoge was intentionally harsh. Boys were given one cloak for the entire year, forced to sleep on beds of reeds they picked by hand, and were constantly underfed to encourage stealth and stealing.
Ironical and instructive, stealing food was encouraged to teach survival skills, but getting caught brought severe punishment, not for the theft, but for the clumsiness of being discovered. It was a lesson in cunning, not morality.
By age 20, if they survived the training, they became full citizens and joined a syssitia, a common mess hall. Here, they ate every meal together, reinforcing the bond that would hold the phalanx together in battle.
The Spartan government was a strange mix of monarchy and democracy. They had 2 kings from 2 different families serving simultaneously. This dual kingship ensured that one could lead armies while the other handled domestic matters.
Yet the kings answered to the ephors, 5 elected officials who held the real power. The ephors could even arrest a king if he broke the law, proving that in Sparta, the law was supreme above any individual.
Admiring and contrasting, differentiate them from the rest of Greece. Spartan women were unique in the Greek world. While Athenian women were secluded, Spartan women were educated, allowed to own land, and encouraged to exercise outdoors to produce strong offspring.
Their influence was immense. By the classical period, women owned nearly 40% of Spartan land. They were famous for their wit, delivering the iconic line to their sons, "Come back with this shield or on it."
In war, the Spartan hoplite was a terrifying sight. Clad in bronze breastplates or stiffened linen, with a Corinthian helmet obscuring their face, they fought as a single impenetrable organism, the phalanx.
The Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC is their most famous moment. King Leonidas and 300 Spartans, supported by several thousand other Greeks, held the pass against the massive Persian army.
But it wasn't a victory, it was a delaying action. The true testament to Spartan might came a year later at the Battle of Plataea, where a Spartan-led coalition crushed the Persian army and secured Greek freedom. However, the rigid system that created these warriors eventually doomed them. Sparta suffered from oliganthropia, a shortage of men. Constant warfare and strict citizenship laws caused their population to plummet.
The earthquake of 464 BC devastated the city and killed thousands, triggering a massive Helot revolt that took 10 years to suppress. The cracks in the Spartan foundation were beginning to show.
Their reluctance to change proved fatal. In 371 BC, at the Battle of Leuctra, the Theban general Epaminondas used a deep phalanx formation to shatter the Spartan line. The myth of Spartan invincibility was broken.
Following this defeat, the Thebans freed the Messenian Helots. Without their slave labor force, the Spartan way of life collapsed. They could no longer spend their days training solely for war.
Sparta became a shadow of its former self, eventually becoming a tourist attraction for Romans who wanted to see the ancient fierce warriors. They performed their rituals like a theme park act. Today, we remember them for their extreme discipline and the refusal to surrender. But the real lesson of Sparta is that a society built entirely on war and rigidity cannot survive a changing world.
The Spartans were not just soldiers. They were the ultimate example of a state placing the collective above the individual. A legacy of blood, iron, and an uncompromising will that echoes through history.
You don't want to miss what's coming next. Subscribe to Vero Quest.